Welcome, everybody. You're now watching us.
We got another one.
We got we're up to episode number 11 of Merritt in the Morning. We're your hosts. This is Jim Merritt. I am Brad Klopfenstein. Today, our guest is Sue Finkam. She is a counselor in Carmel. She's running for mayor on the Republican ticket.
And we are so glad she's here.
We are. We
were just talking about our sign here, work hard and be nice, which is kind of the theme of our show.
It is.
Because we're about public policy. We had Greg Doyle from the Indianapolis Star last week, and he was really interested. And he is a sports columnist, but he gets outside the lines on that. And so we're a multi-talented, lacking controversy, because that's not what we do. And we're so glad you're with us this morning.
Someday we'll talk racing and then have controversy. We're coming to you live on Facebook from Cafe Audrey at beautiful Fort Harrison, right in the heart of Lawrence. Open 7 days a week for breakfast and lunch.
And they serve dinner.
They do serve dinner Wednesdays through Saturdays.
Right.
So
and who is sponsored?
Well,
who's our sponsor?
Jim, funny you'd ask that. Whoops, what happened? There we go. We are sponsored by Alpsbrow Beer.
We are not drinking it.
Yet. Speak for
because
yourself.
It's Merritt in the Morning.
Yeah, actually, we're all three on Diet Cokes today. So
and did you know the Tammy that owns Cafe Audrey is here with us today?
Yes, she is.
And we very much appreciate every other Thursday of airing this or streaming this from
She is just on the other side of the camera right now.
Yes.
I appreciate all of you guys being here.
Well, thank you very much for hosting us. This is wonderful, great setting.
We are very lucky.
Yes,
Very
we
lucky.
are. So let's turn our attention to our guest.
Hi,
Sue Finkam, why the heck would you want to do this?
I'm nuts, I guess is what
Nah.
people say. I'm absolutely crazy. I mean, Carmel's an amazing community, and for 12 years I've got to sit with other counselors and other leaders like Mayor Brainerd and see this community grow and thrive. And I feel like my work experience, my passion aligns with what the city needs next, and I want to take a shot at it.
So for people who are watching who might not be familiar with you, give a thumbnail. What is your background? How did you get to Cafe Audrey's today on a Thursday?
Very quick background. I grew up in northern Michigan, came down to Indiana in 1990. Been ergonomics consultant, business development, healthcare marketer. And then for the last 12 years, I've been a city councilor here. I currently own my own marketing agency and, and now full-time running for mayor. So,
Right.
But it's been an honor and pleasure to be in our community. When I got as an ergonomics consultant, I traveled all around and finally kind of landed roots, stopped traveling as much, and got a job in Carmel. And I just said, like, this reminds me of that little town I grew up in northern Michigan,
Which town?
Roscommon, tiny.
Where is it in relation to like Traverse City?
Can I use the map?
Yes.
Okay, right here.
Okay. So near Cadillac?
Yeah, north of Cadillac,
Okay.
northeast of Cadillac. So it's Higgins Lake, Houghton Lake, that area,
Higgins.
tourist, and that's the lake I grew up on. I was grew up on a river,
Mhm.
which is actually where our house was near. My friends had a boat on Higgins Lake, other friends had a horse, dirt bikes. It was that kind of outdoor lifestyle. And but it was like everybody knew everybody, you took care of each other. There was a lot of pride, good school system.
Sounds like
Even though
Carmel.
it's tiny, exactly. And so get to Carmel, like this feels like home.
Mhm.
And so as soon as we could get our child into kindergarten, we moved to Carmel and have been there ever since.
Brad, she ran a really good, Sue, you ran a great
Thank you.
primary campaign.
Thank you.
I mean, and it was fierce. That mayor's seat's been occupied for a long time. And the city grew up when Mayor Brainerd was mayor. And big shoes to fill.
Absolutely.
Because it's growth, schools, education, economic development, and jobs all go together. And your concentration of being a person in business, understanding business, I'm sure that the citizens of Carmel who will see this, because we'll make sure they see it. It's an opportunity to talk directly to them and talk to people and businesses that might want to come and move to Carmel.
Absolutely. we've seen such tremendous growth, especially the last 8 to 10 years in Carmel. But that's a very specific period of time. We had incredibly low interest rates, so we could, borrow money at historically low rates. We had a lot of greenfield we could develop, expansion of the Monon Trail. We've done a lot of heavy lifting, and now it gets a little harder from the development standpoint. It's more infill, which is building in, smaller areas that are next to already built stuff. And a lot of people coming from our community from across the country have heard about Carmel. We won't see the same kind of growth, the same kind of explosive stuff we've seen in the last 10 years. Interest rates, other things are going to impact that, but we still have a lot of room to grow and to develop. I feel like what's needed next is also careful fiscal excellence, right? Careful planning so we have some flexibility, so we can be a little more responsive if market conditions rapidly change. We're in a volatile time, but also, I'm passionate about engaging residents and engaging business owners. That's something we probably haven't done a good enough job of along the path, and I'm passionate about that. Maybe it's the marketer in me, but I feel like you need to saturate yourself with the voice of the customer. Our customers are everyone who's invested personally in a home or in a business in our community, and I feel like we need to listen to them and make sure that their voices are at the forefront as we're making these big choices with development and with tourism and with events and all the things that we enjoy.
So let me ask, so what do you want your pitch to be? And there's really two pitches if you're mayor of a city the size of Carmel.
Yeah.
What is your pitch to the residents to invest and stay in Carmel and infill, as you say? And then what is your pitch to somebody who's not from Carmel to come into Carmel?
So my pitch to Carmel residents to stay is, to have them reminded of the incredible quality of life that we have. It's vibrant, it's thriving, and most importantly, what we hear all the time, it's safe. Right? You can take your 3-year-old by the hand and walk anywhere and walk to the park and what have you, and feel safe. And people recognize that it's a unique setting, right? To have our parks and our trails and the safety that we have. And so and of course the schools that you mentioned, which is, our regional economic development in Carmel. So it's not a hard pitch to get people to stay here.
How do you get them to invest?
As far as in a home or in a business?
Both.
Well, I think in a home, people recognize that our assessed values of our homes are going up, and so they're getting a return on their investment. Those who bought a home, I just talked to a woman yesterday. She bought an Old Town Carmel, which has seen incredible change and transformation, and she bought a house there for $80,000. Well, those homes are going for $500,000 to $1 million now, right? And so, she is very clearly saying, "I love this place. Look at this investment." She was smart enough to see it coming. So I feel like from a business perspective, the investment pitch is we have a lot of high income earners, right? We have a lot of disposable income, which we're blessed to have, but also it's safe. We have great quality of streets and other things where we've got great knowledge workers available. So it's pretty easy to say we've got a good workforce here.
Susan and I were invited to have dinner with another couples the other night, and we stopped by their home. We had 6 of us, and somebody hosted a cocktail party before we went to dinner in Carmel, and we were walking to dinner, and we left their house, and they didn't lock the door. And I
Are you
said,
sure you want to broadcast that?
well, I said to the gentleman, I said, "Well, you didn't lock your front door." He goes, "I don't really feel like I need to." And this is right in the middle of Carmel, right off the Monon Trail. And what a statement of feeling like, of safety. And you don't find that many places around the state of Indiana, nor around the country these days, where you don't have to lock your front door. And that's what I kind of grew up in, that my mom and dad left the keys in their car in the garage, and we didn't really lock our doors. And so it's a great feeling. I've met the fire chief. I know the police chief. The people that serve on the different township boards, and moving to Carmel was quite an experience because I didn't hit a pothole. And if there is a pothole, it's gone the next day. And so it's keeping the momentum and growing it. We have Republic Air that is building an enormous training center, an office center. I think we have room to attract people such as that, but it's the supply is shortening. It really is.
Absolutely. And one of the things I campaigned on in the primary was creating a true economic development department. Mayor Brainerd has handled a lot of that in his tenure. Obviously, with him leaving, we need to rethink about how we do economic development. But the reality is, we have to have someone to use data to go hunting for businesses that fit Carmel, who need the type of workforce we can offer, who are looking for that type of quality of life for their employees. And so we need to invest in that area. And I'm confident it'll have a significant return. And create a business liaison position as well to make sure, again, we can retain those that have already invested here. Because in this highly competitive environment, there are going to be other people trying to lure them away. And we need to understand how businesses are growing, how they're expanding, make sure we're going to fit their future needs. So all good things to do.
Let me ask, what are your thoughts on TIF districts? I know that this is the way of the world. I don't like it, but pretty much every business expansion, they show up with their hand out and they're like, all right, we want to do something, even if we're moving across town or reinvesting in our business. What kind of incentives are you going to give us?
Right.
Like I say, I'm not a fan. However, I'm just curious your thoughts on it.
Well, our first and foremost incentive to come to Carmel is our built environment already. And I respect Mayor Brainerd we'll copy the council on letters that he sends back to companies with their hands out saying, look around. We've invested in the streets in front of you. We've invested in parks and trails. So this is your incentive. So I've appreciated that a lot. We have tax abatement, which is a handout. I'm not a big fan of tax abatement. And ours are that you have to bring jobs that are average $90,000 or more a year before you even consider one. So that's a pretty high bar. And then, so we only have, I think, 6 or 8 tax abatements that are still active on our books. Very few. So then that leaves us TIF. And that's one of the very few tools we have in our toolkit from an economic development incentive piece. The good news is, those dollars that they would have paid come back to public investment, right? They have to do public investment to get those TIF dollars. Our next TIF district expires, I think, in 2028, and that's gonna be millions of dollars that come back to all the taxing entities.
Right around the corner.
Yeah, it is. And so, I think there's opportunities there for us to consider how we incentivize, how we use TIF. And I think that's one of the things I'm motivated about wanting to be in the next mayor's dig into that. What type of business, what type of development do we want to incentivize? We need more for sale condos. We need more office space, maybe not so much in the apartments, right? So we get to look at that and see, but regardless, TIF is a tool that we have. I think if used responsibly, it's a great thing. So, and it's really, again, one of our only tools, but a lot of these companies aren't coming with lots and lots of jobs now either. They're coming with lots of capital investment, which is still a good thing for us. So used carefully, it should be good.
We're talking about the blocking and tackling of government, and whereas in the past with Mayor Brainerd, he brought a lot of new things to
Absolutely.
Carmel. And I would imagine that when you are talking to someone about being mayor, the idea of roundabouts,
Yes.
and the art that is now occupying. It's not just fountains, it's not just green grass, but there's art that's springing up all around Carmel, as well as the statuary in downtown Carmel.
Yeah.
And so you as a member of the council and Mayor Brainerd being in his seat have brought a culture to Carmel, and I for one hope that is continuing.
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the things I want to do, hopefully when elected mayor, is to do a citywide survey to really, as I said earlier, saturate ourselves in the voice of the customer. And I'm sure that one of the things that'll pop up is the love of art, public art, that most appreciate the investment. I think some will say, how much is too much? When should we invest? When should we maybe take a little slower, right? And that's what I'm interested in hearing. But the creative class and knowledge workers love art, and they want to instill it in their kids. And you'll see lots of studies that say, children involved in art, whether it be music or theater or, just arts as far as, design and drawing, are more satisfied, are happier kids, and also make more as adults, right? So I think there's a lot of good data that it fits Carmel with our outstanding school system, who has a huge arts program. I think like 5 different orchestras, marching band, symphony band, all that, plus all the choirs. That fits our kids too, from what they want in their next community. So we got a strong strong performing arts program from a grants perspective. Again, I see that continuing, but I want to have those conversations with those groups to say, what are we doing well? How can we do it better? And also help them be more sustainable. I think that's a responsible thing to do as a government too.
And you probably heard a lot in the campaign.
Mhm.
That's what really campaigns are for, is to
Yes.
really understand. And being a member of the council, people
Yeah.
love the art
Yep.
of Carmel. They love the roundabouts. They love the safety. They love the good schools. And that's the nice part about being a part of the council. And Klopp, I've always said that those that run for governor or high office like that, you really want them to be parents. You really want them to be a part of the legislature. You want that experience. And that's why Sue's going to be such a great mayor, is because she has all that life experience.
Well, it's difficult. I mean, I will admit, for years, I was a critic of Mayor Brainerd, and I thought he was putting together a house of cards. And after 20 years of success, I am willing to admit I was wrong.
Yeah. That tax base has been wide.
It has. Yes, as long as you're doing things that are nice and you expand the tax base, and you can expand the tax base. Some of that was, you'd mentioned, he was buoyed by having lots of green space that they could just develop that had been farmland. You've now kind of built out, so now you have to get more creative on how you infill and what it is that's going in, but it works. I mean, you can't quibble with the results.
Yeah, and I'm one of the things we talk a lot about was the fiscal excellence piece in the campaign as well. And I think what people appreciated about my approach is I do want to take every budget, strip it back to nothing, and build it back up to really identify what dollars are going where and why. Make sure all the first dollars go to essential services, right? Streets, police and fire, and then make sure that we're using those dollars smart. There's no waste there, so we can then afford the arts. That is what people want. We did not hear, when going door to door, we did not hear concerns or complaints about art. Maybe I don't like a certain statue, but I think it's a healthy conversation at that point, right? What we heard about was crime. We heard about keep my quality of life high. Make sure that again, my taxes don't go higher. Those kind of more practical, that you said earlier, the basic blocking and tackling of local government in particular. So again, those little market studies at every door were really enlightening.
So what are your goals? I mean, I assume you probably have 3 or 5. There's things that you want to accomplish. Obviously, you're running for mayor.
Yeah.
So what is it that you want to see that might be the same, might be different than what's happening right now?
Well, the built environment, the transportation network, those things are rolling. That machine is in play, right? So we will, and I already talked about fiscal excellence. My goal is to make sure that every dollar has a name and we use it wisely. I want to make sure we invest in technology, whether we're partnering with a third-party firm, like a private entity, or we bring it in-house, but we're making data-informed decisions.
Oh, boy.
So
is
that a good thing?
Oh,
we're going to arm wrestle over this.
yeah. You just struck a chord with me, because data with government, data with business is just an incredible piece that no one talks about.
Yeah.
It's just we have the performance hub in state government. Believe it or not, the Department of Commerce in the federal government is all about data. And the use of data can make you safe. It can make you financially responsible. I mean, data is a large part of governance. And people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's dull.
It is, and I'm kind of that wonky business person that loves it, right?
Yeah.
But
Data's boring.
if you instill it in the way you make decisions, the way you do business at the city government level, and you're more efficient, you're going to save dollars, better steward of the dollars of the taxes that are coming from the taxpayers, and then you can invest in and deploy it in other ways to continue that growth, right? Or continue that performance enhancement.
You're watching Merritt in the Morning, sponsored by Alps Brow Beer. Coming to you live from Cafe Audrey's in beautiful Fort Harrison. If you're watching live on Facebook, our guest today is Sue Finkam. She's the Republican candidate for mayor of Carmel. So, question I have to ask you, obviously we're in Lawrence right now. Transit, regional transit, Central Indiana transit. Indianapolis has Indigo. What do you want Carmel's role to be in regional transit, public transit?
Well, I absolutely want to be a part of the table or have a seat at the table in that, right? So, we have some workforce problems as far as restaurants like Cafe Audrey, getting workers to Carmel. Many can't afford to live there, so we're pulling them from other counties or at least other communities to work in Carmel. I don't see a major capital investment anytime soon. I'm worried that technology will outpace that capital investment. We do have to get serious, and there's been ongoing conversations about a circulator that would either connect to Indigo, and there are some companies that do this now, but some kind of circulator within Hamilton County or, to connect to Marion County to, whether it be van service or small, or a bus service, something to connect. I think we have to be looking at all that. I'm not a big fan of a huge capital investment though, like to bring a line up. I want to see it work elsewhere first before we ever consider that.
Klopp, when we were debating in the legislature, the idea of Indigo in allowing a referendum in Marion County to decide if that was going to happen, one of our fiscal people in the Senate decided that they were going to make a fiscal impact study of what would be the right thing to do with public transit in Marion County. And they came up with the idea that if you bought a certain amount of vans and you made it on a timely basis, and they actually had the idea before Uber came along, this is a long time ago, that if you had a system in Marion County of vans, not bus stops, not the big infrastructure of painting the streets, they're going to have to be repainted. All the lack of efficiency that Indigo has come with, that you can get it done. That you could have a circular of vans in Marion County where you wouldn't have the infrastructure that the $89 million or whatever it was that we actually spent in Marion County, that you could actually do it. And I'm really glad to hear that you have that impact, that input in the idea of we can get this done efficiently. And I just think that for Carmel, and really, if you back up time for Indianapolis, you can get it done.
And I don't know how far away we are from driverless cars either, but that's a technology that's certainly emerging. And there's universities studying that, and why couldn't we be a pilot program or something like that, right, to evaluate it? I'd rather take baby steps than big, huge, giant leaps than we can't get out of financially.
Yeah. Well, on public transit, most people envision New York, Chicago, where you have large population, dense, and you typically have
Traffic.
Yeah, well, traffic is an issue, parking is an issue, and you have some big hurdle like an ocean or a lake that you can't drive across that kind of sandwiches everybody. Central Indiana, we build out in every direction, and typically our zoning laws say you have to have generally low density on
And
those
people
stuff.
are working from home.
And now they work
Yeah,
from home.
sure.
So yes, I'm glad to hear. You're right. Jim, you kind of went that way. For half the cost of what we're putting into Indigo right now, every single rider could have a Uber card and go wherever they wanted to go, whenever they wanted to go, would be a lot more efficient. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, very much so.
That is not the official stance of the Greater Lawrence Chamber of Commerce.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to tell everybody.
You put that little asterisk on there. Views of smiles by the host.
Being president of the
my
Chamber
own.
of Commerce.
Yeah.
You're blushing.
Well, it's okay.
Do we need to
Actually,
shoot this?
yeah, no, it's all right. It can stand. I haven't been shy about saying it.
Right.
I think there's probably more efficient ways to do it. And
Yes,
my thought has always been that, yeah, if the goal is to get people from point A to point B, what is the cheapest and easiest and most efficient way to do it?
And safest.
And yes, and large buses are not that.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm just glad that Sue is is a member of the team being on the council and the transition to being mayor, because you're going to be elected, you're looking at the next Carmel
Thank you. We're
mayor.
working really hard.
And I can say that because I'm a pundit now.
Yeah.
So, but I know a little bit about politics, and the Republican Party needs to work really hard because elections start now. People start, it's end of September. People have to think about voting.
There's ads on TV, and my guess is if you want to be on TV, you better buy the ads now because Jefferson Shreve is going to buy up every avail that's out there.
I met with one of the gubernatorial candidates and he said, is there anything I can do to help you? I'm like, don't buy media until November 8th. He's like, not gonna happen.
Well, also the idea, the Republican Party needs to get with the game and understand early voting.
Yes.
And I'm sure your campaign is going to be chasing those absentee ballots.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
In our poll, we found that more Republicans are gonna vote early rather than absentee. So I think that's starting to switch. But Republican voters are typically day of voters, and we're trying to get across to folks. Don't wait until day of, because if you're sick or something happens, you miss the opportunity to have your vote counted, and we're trying to get them to bank their vote early. And so that is gonna be part of our messages ongoing.
I think that's incredible, Klopp. I think that's today. And the Republican Party really, we vote on election day.
Yeah.
And it's time to change the thinking.
Absolutely.
It's an election month now.
It is.
Starts 30 days out,
Yeah.
and
October
Yeah.
10th.
Technology
birthday.
is, as chairman of the county, Marion County, some time ago, I wasn't for it because the technology hadn't gotten here yet. But I think it's safer now. I think your vote can be counted. I think it's safe for Republicans to vote early. No question
Absolutely.
about it.
Yeah.
Technology key.
so how many people are working on your team right now?
It's pretty lean by design. So we have a couple strategists and three others that are doing things like scheduling, meet and greets, sign program, day-to-day grassroots, and then yours truly. We have two campaign co-chairs, both of which are former GOP county chairs, so they give advice. But we kept it very lean and mean because we wanted to make decisions fast. And this is how I lead too. I want agile decision making. I don't want to be burdened by bureaucracy. And so we kind of kept the campaign team like I operate the business and like I want to operate the city of Carmel.
Mhm.
I feel like now we're also blessed after the family fight in the primary. We're blessed to have all the council candidates on board. So we're working well as a team. That just allows us to scale the message. And then also having the county party now and the state party, since we're past the primary, helping too. So that adds certainly volume.
Yes.
Mhm.
Now, were you able to reach out to your opponents from the primary and
Yeah.
at least have a debrief after the primary election?
Yep. And I haven't yet met with both of them because of some scheduling challenges, but it's all positive, and I'm appreciative of that. You need a little time.
Yes.
Like couple wounds heal
Mhm.
for all the involved, but lucky they're both good people. They wanted the best for Carmel. We got into some squabbles, but I felt it was honestly a fair fight. And so and I'm not a grudge person. I don't feel like it just hurts your soul, right? I want to spend time in that. So that was yesterday, this is today, turn the page, move forward, and both those gents have been great.
Now, I gotta say, I think my Indy 500 tickets are in jeopardy because I always buy my Indy 500 tickets from Woody Ryder.
He's a good person. I'm sure he'll still talk to you.
All is well in Carmel. And we need everybody on board.
Absolutely.
The family has to, the Republicans have run Pembroke County and Carmel and Fishers and Westfield. And we saw a crack in the armor in Boone County with Zionsville. And so it has to be all Republicans on deck.
Yeah.
Everybody has to be, in Carmel, we've seen Democrats being elected to the city council. And so it's, they're here, they are organized, they are hungry. And we've got a great leader in Sue and Mario, the county chairman, is doing a great job.
Yep.
He has, at Republican meetings that I have attended, he has been very, very strict with his language. He's been very fierce and to the point that we can't take it for granted that Republicans are going to win anymore. You've got to be assertive. You've got to make sure that you knock on that next door, because we're not going to mention his name, but she's got a opponent that understands politics, that is on the council, that you're going to win, and it's not going to be slim. But it's not going to be slim, because we're going to work really hard to elect you. And I know a little bit about it. And so, I'm positive you're going to be the next mayor of Carmel, but it's not without a lot of work.
Well, thank you.
And
First of all.
dedication.
And yeah, I think that was why I got it become the nominee too in May, is because we worked so hard. And people saw it and looked at that and said, she wants that.
Well, no, you had a message.
I did too. I did.
You've got to have a message, and that message came to me as a Carmel resident. I never thought I'd say that, but growing up in Indianapolis, but as a Carmel resident, your message came through to me and to my family and to my neighbors, and everybody worked hard, but you worked smart, and you had the message that said that you want to continue the momentum. You're going to be different, but those things that we care about in Carmel, that being education, safety, and art, and just the public safety aspect, is so very important when you're in a small town these days.
Absolutely. And, our crime stats are increasing a little bit. And I think, that makes everybody nervous. The biggest decision the next mayor has to make out of the gate is not finding a new police chief, because ours is retiring. And so we have to have the right hire there.
Well, that's great, because you can put your stamp on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the idea of, you don't want a clean house, but it's Sue Finkam's town now.
Yeah, well, I want to work with the FOP and those men and women who serve every day to make sure we find the right leader for them. Because they're they're incredibly proud of the professional presence they bring. I'm incredibly proud of that and thankful for that. And I want to make sure we work hand in hand to make sure we find the right person.
Klopp, there's going to be a new era in Carmel.
There is, one way or the other, for sure. So as we wrap up, given that we're coming to you live from Cafe Audrey, beautiful Fort Harrison, in the heart of Lawrence, sponsored. We'll get to that other slide. Just I gotta ask. I forgot to ask our last couple guests. Why do you love Lawrence? Which that's a hashtag, by the way.
Is it?
Hashtag why I love Lawrence.
Is a hashtag endorsed by the greater
Lawrence Chamber? Actually, the city started it.
Okay,
So Daniel Byers from the city. I've just adopted it. So
I love Lawrence because of the incredible history with the military here. I just, I used to live at 86 in Mud Creek, just a little further here for several years.
you're in the township.
Absolutely. So the park being here is amazing. The big mature trees here. And again, the historical buildings here are incredible. We don't have the blessing of these historical buildings in Carmel. We had Quakers who had frame buildings that didn't stand the test of time like these beautiful things do. So that's why I love Lawrence.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Let me go back to our slide here. You've been watching Merritt in the Morning with your hosts, former state senator Jim Merritt and president of the Greater Lawrence Chamber of Commerce, Brad Klopfenstein. Our guest today has been Sue Finkam. She's a Republican nominee for mayor of Carmel. Thank you to Cafe Audrey's for being our host. They're open for breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. Dinner Wednesdays through Saturdays. So make plans to come here for dinner. And if our conversation this morning is anything, they will soon be carrying Alps Brow beer, which is our next slide. We've been brought to you by Alps Brow Beer. Ask for it by name. Thank you very much for watching Merritt in the Morning. We will be back in 2 weeks when our guest will be John Katzenberger from the Indiana Nature Conservancy. He also was a panelist on Indiana Week in Review and has been a reporter in and around Indiana. So thank you very much for joining us today. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.